Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go. So today we're going to be talking about healthy eating.
We are indeed. So I just thought, because obviously we talk a lot about, personal growthy stuff, but I think we also want to include kind of wellness things, don't we, as well, just to add that to the kind of things that we talk about. So we just decided to talk about the kind of things that we eat, what we sort of, what we prioritize in our eating. And actually, I know that you are way better on this than me in terms of the sort of your knowledge of nutrition.
Well,
You I think you have a more fundamental knowledge of nutrition than I do, but I do try and eat healthily and have done for quite a long time. I don't always succeed, but I just thought we could, maybe start by talking about the things that we try and get into our diet and maybe our, what we eat in a day.
okay.
If I'm remotely interested, God knows.
Okay. The most important thing to say about all of this, firstly, is there is so much out there in terms, we're bombarded with what we should be eating, and it always seems changing, and you can get yourself in a right old state. And of course, everyone associate, food is life, really. Food is life. It kind of really does dictate, I believe, how we feel. If you're feeling lethargic and energyless, your food, what you're putting in your body can really sort of change that up, and vice versa. Food is ultimately energy, yet at the same time we can get so wrapped up in all the nitty gritty of it. And I think actually the most important thing is just to keep it, I don't know, I try and just keep it as simple as possible and focus on what I get to eat rather than restricting myself of food. And I think even if you are someone who is is struggling with weight and is constantly feel like you're battling with weight, which I think so many people tend to be doing in this day and age, I think you still got to come at it from a point of view of like, what do I get? What am I adding into my diet rather than what am I taking out? Because we all know restriction never works. Healthy eating for me is about a sustained way of eating. It's not about going through fads. And okay, I might play around with my diet. I do that. But ultimately it's about eating in a way which I can do and I can sustain for the long term. So for me it really is about just eating. It's just about eating sensibly, eating as much real food as possible. So trying to use ingredients which look like the thing that they actually started out in as, and I think if we can avoid eating out of packets with it, which has a whole list of ingredients on the back, which you have no idea what they are. The food has been made in some sort of factory. If you just think about the energy of that food, it's like the life is sucked out of it. It's gone through so many processes that's then going to be passed on to you and your body. Whereas if you can get a really beautiful looking, I don't know, apple or whatever, if the food looks like it's meant to look and it looks like it's been well cared for, then obviously that energy is going to be transferred onto you as well. Don't get me wrong, I have a terrible sweet tooth, and it's something I'm constantly aware of, constantly trying to, I'm just aware of it because I do love sweet things. But I find that if I can just try and fuel myself with really beautiful foods, then that's the best rule of thumb. And I think for me, I try and get in as many different plants as I can into my diet every week. And a really good rule of thumb is if we can get in 30 different forms of plants a week. That is not only good in terms of all the nutrients, which we're going to be absorbing into our systems, but it's also really good for your gut microbiome, and which, as we now know, we've learned so much more about. That's really important. Just, like most of our serotonin is made in our gut, which is our happy hormone. Um, there's such a link between the gut and the brain, so we need to keep that gut happy. So when I say 30 plants, though, it's not, it doesn't just mean sort of fruit and veg. Actually, it includes things like nuts, seeds, herbs, spices. So actually, it's not that many. So I always kind of think, right, if you can task yourself, right, can I get 30 different plants into my diet in a week? You're doing really well. So yeah, that's one thing. I'll stop talking for a bit now and let you know.
No, as I say, you are definitely much more clued up about, you're much more knowledgeable about the sort of nutrition side of food for sure. But I mean, I echo everything that you say, and as much as I also try to eat pretty clean as much as I can. Like, it's very, very rare that I will eat something out of a packet. And actually, one thing, I have not had a microwave for about 15 years. I haven't had a microwave in my flat that I've lived in for 10 and a half years. Actually, now I'm staying down at my mum's and there is a microwave here. But I think actually it's really quite good not to have a microwave, because you cannot be tempted to just get anything to shove in the microwave. Not that I would, to be honest. So yeah, I also try and eat as much kind of whole foods as possible. And but thinking about my own sort of eating habits, I am a bit of a weirdo, I have to say. And actually, this is one of the benefits about only eating for one, and I never cook for anyone, and I don't have a family and I don't have a boyfriend, so it's just me most of the time. And actually, I find that brilliant, because apart from anything else, when I say I don't cook, I mean I don't cook. Like, I am literally the world's worst cook. That doesn't mean that I don't cook really, really basic stuff. But what it does mean is that I never cook anything very complicated. And I'm one of those strange people who, and because it is just me, I can eat the same thing over and over and over again. Like, I'm not kidding. It's weird. I don't know whether it's good or bad. I mean, presumably, if I'm eating something healthy over and over, that's pretty good. But I am that person who can eat the same breakfast. I can eat the same thing for lunch. I can even eat the same dinner just on repeat. I can literally eat the same dinner for like 4 months and just not think anything of it. It's very odd, but that's just me. But I tend to sort of get into something and then I'll just have that over and over and over and over again. But going back to me not cooking, it's always very, very, very simple. And actually, eating healthily can be really bloody simple if you want it to be. Like, for example, so what I eat in a day. And actually, one thing I want to talk about is the whole thing about eating a savory breakfast, because for a few months, and this is largely thanks to you, because it was you who said to me last summer, you need to be eating, switch from a sweet to a savory breakfast. And I've kind of really taken that on board over the last however many months. So now I very, very rarely eat a sweet breakfast. And so what I had for breakfast this morning was, I had two eggs scrambled on sourdough toast with avocado, with half an avocado on the toast, and then the scrambled eggs on the top, and then a little bit of smoked salmon, darling, on the side, which is actually, and a coffee, obviously, because I can't live without coffee. So that is my latest go-to savory breakfast, which I absolutely love, and I find that it does fill me up. And the other thing that I've started doing, actually, which is related to the savory breakfast thing, in order to kind of, prevent those glucose spikes throughout the day. And this is a glucose goddess thing, and I know her again through you. I've started drinking vinegar before, so I will dilute apple cider vinegar in a glass of water, and if I want to eat something, sweet, then I'll have that before I eat the sweet thing. So that's just, and actually that,
You
sorry,
notice a difference?
I
Have you
noticed,
noticed a difference?
to be honest, I haven't noticed any difference, because I haven't actually been doing that particular trick for long enough, I think, to have noticed a difference. But it's something that I've started doing that I'm going to carry on doing, because it's really, really easy. And I actually really like the taste of apple cider vinegar in water. I think some people find it revolting. I actually find it quite refreshing. One thing I just want to add is my very, very favourite snack, is literally my favourite snack ever, is apple with almond butter. It's just the most delicious snack. I will have apple with almond butter every single day. um, and yeah, so I try. I'm pretty sure I don't get 30 plants in every week because, like I say, I tend to eat the same thing. But one thing I do try and do is always get as much broccoli and spinach in as I can. I eat a lot of broccoli and a lot of spinach, and I tend to eat them raw if possible. So quite often for lunch, it doesn't sound like very much, but I tend to have um, just raw broccoli with hummus, and I'm obsessed with. Do you know Sabra hummus? Sabra. It's the. I mean, you can get it. You can get it in Tesco's. You can get it in Sainsbury's. It's the most delicious hummus, and I will have just like raw broccoli with hummus for lunch, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually, if you eat freaking half a what do you call a big thing of broccoli. So anyway, that's what I'm doing at the moment, and then I will tend to for my dinner. I will have actually I've been having this really delicious like quiche with a huge salad, which will be kind of half a bag of salad, which consists of spinach leaves, rockets, whatever else, and then I'll have it with beetroot, I'll have it with tomatoes, avocado, and then just a bit of oil and vinegar. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my what my sort of day's eating looks like. And I also love eating various kind of like I also have a sweet tooth, and I really like there's these deliciously Ella. I shouldn't buy them because they're really expensive, but fuck it, I do. She does these amazing like deliciously Ella bars, and I have like a hazelnut pecan and maple haze bar pretty much every day. That's like my sort of sweet snack, which I normally have in the middle of the afternoon. And the other thing that I do is I drink a lot of water, like a lot of water, because I think that is key. And I think a lot of people probably don't drink enough water. I mean, Polly, why is it important to drink at least a litre or two of water a day?
Yeah, well, I think it just keeps everything moving. It flushes everything out. It keeps us hydrated. We're 80% water, so we just need to make sure we're hydrated. And I think lots of us are very, very dehydrated. You can drink too much water though, if you can overdo it. So yeah, 2 liters of water is about the average, I think. But that does like herbal teas as well as just plain water. So it's just important to be hydrated. I was literally just listening to Radhi Jay Shetty's wife do it on a on the radio, and she's talking all about Ayurveda principles, which I really, really love. And she was saying, actually, one thing to be really mindful of, which I didn't realize, is if you are drinking lots of very cold water before and during your meal, before and during your eating, actually that can really turn off your digestive enzymes and can really mess with your digestive system. So actually what she was recommending is to just take small sips of water when you're eating, and preferably drink room temperature or warm or kind of a warm drink whilst you're eating, because that really helps fuel your digestive system. It kind of makes sense because you need heat to fuel your digestive system. If you're dampening it down with lots of cold water, then it's going to dampen that. It's going to not be so helpful. So I thought that was a really useful tip, actually. And one thing on that I will say about the digestive system is we can be eating all the most amazing veggies and eating, the most beautiful food, getting all these nutrients coming into our system. Yet, if our digestion isn't working efficiently, then we're not going to be absorbing all of these beautiful nutrients. And one of the biggest issues which stops us from being able to digest efficiently is stress. Because if you think about it, when we are really stressed out, your system is pumping out those stress hormones. So your system is in that sympathetic state. And when it's in that sympathetic state, all the other systems in your body become kind of dysregulate. They're not functioning as well because all of your energy is going into just survival. That's the most important function. And that includes your digestive system. So if you are really stressed, yet you're still having the green smoothies, eating all the broccoli, all of that, you're not going to be getting the benefits of those veggies. So the most important thing we can do before we eat is make sure your system is lovely and relaxed. And there's some really, really simple breaths that you can do. One, which is really, really helpful, is a 5-5-7 breath. So you just do 10 times, breathe in for 5, hold for 7, and then breathe out for 7. And if you do that about 10 times, which take about 2 minutes, you will put your system most likely into, you'll shift it from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, and you are going to be able to absorb all those wonderful nutrients. So that, I think, is absolutely key for everyone to know, because I didn't, if you don't know that, you don't know that, and it's just such a waste of all of your efforts of eating as healthily as possible. I just want to pick up though, because you said you've got cruciferous vegetables, so broccoli, kale, things like sprouts, all those sorts of veggies are so good for us because they really support our liver, which is really good for, again, detoxifying. So those are good. Some people might not be able to tolerate them raw. You're lucky that you can tolerate eating them raw, because for some people that might just be too much for their systems. But I would always steam things like broccoli rather than ever put them in water, because they lose so much of their nutrients.
Actually, let me ask you about that, because I have often wondered how, like, because I always steam vegetables as well. When if I'm not having them raw, I will steam them for sure. Like, I'll steam, whether it's broccoli or asparagus or whatever it may be. But I've often wondered how much goodness vegetables lose when you steam them. Basically, when you steam them, does that pretty much keep all of the goodness in them? Because I know if you boil, like, I mean, for example, my mum has a tendency to, she does steam stuff, but she also had a habit of like boiling vegetables, and too much. And I always think, well, you almost might as well not bother eating them, because by that point all the goodness is gone. Is that fair to say?
God, I don't know how much is lost, but I know that, well, you could just see it in the water, how much of a goodness goes in the water and the colour of the water. But yeah, steaming it, you lose less than if you were to boil your vegetables. So yeah, I don't really know about the ins and outs exactly. One thing I will just say though as well is just everyone to be aware of protein, because this is something I know I have not eaten enough of in the past. And particularly as a middle-aged woman, we all lose. We all need to have protein, because basically it's kind of the build. It helps. It's like a building block of the body. We need it to keep super healthy, our hair, our nails, our teeth, but also our bones and our muscles. And it's one thing that the body doesn't actually make itself, so we need to bring it into the body. So yeah, protein obviously you can get through meat, but you can also get it things like nuts, through plant, through tofu, through, oh gosh,
Egg.
lots of eggs, yeah,
You
oily,
also, you can
oily,
get through fish, can't
yeah.
you? Well, say, just to interject for one sec, that's partly why I have my savoury breakfast, and why it is what it is, with eggs and avocado and salmon, because that's a really kind of protein filled breakfast. And funnily enough, last night I had a steak for the first time in, honestly, I can't remember the last time I had a steak, but I had a steak last night. I literally had it with just with asparagus and like onion and mushroom. It was absolutely delicious. And I am becoming more conscious of exactly this, that I don't get enough protein. So I want to start, because again, going back to being single, I tend to just not buy meat. I do buy quite a lot of fish, but I tend to not buy meat. But I'm actually going to start eating more chicken. I'm not saying I'm going to start eating steak every night, but actually I want to get back in a bit more protein through things like chicken, or whatever other meat, because I keep hearing, and I've listened to so many people, so many podcast conversations, people talking about exactly what you were just talking about. And I'm so glad you brought this up, because it is, women of a certain age like you and I, and I'm sure lots of both of our listeners, women in their 40s, 50s and beyond. It's more important than we realize, isn't it? This kind of our musculature health that we just don't tend to think about, and that is all about the protein. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do
Yeah.
continue.
a very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
8% of our muscle mass per decade after the age of 30. So if we don't, if we don't support that, then it can lead to all sorts of problems. Also muscle is so important just to keep our metabolism going. We can actually burn our muscles. If we've kind of got strong muscles, we can actually, we burn more energy through muscles than we do through fat. So it's really, really important. More and more I'm learning about our musculoskeletal system. It's really, we need to keep it strong, and obviously that can be through body weight work, strength work, resistance training, all that sort of thing. But in order to maintain it, we also need to make sure we're getting enough protein. So I actually have, and obviously food first in everything, but I have started adding, I kind of make myself a smoothie for breakfast sometimes, which has got some protein powder in, or I'll do it after breakfast, like as a sort of a mid-morning thing, where I'll put some full-fat yogurt and some berries and some really decent protein powder, which is not full of crap, because I think some of them can be so full of crap. And actually that then just kind of, more peace of mind that I'm just consciously trying to bring some more protein into my diet, because I know it's just something I've been lacking.
And Polly, tell us what is a good protein powder, because I've never used it, but it's definitely something I've been thinking that I might start adding into my diet, and in a smoothie, in some kind of smoothie, and I know that Greek yogurt is really, really high in protein, so Greek yogurt is a good thing if anyone's thinking about what else has lots of protein in. And the other thing actually I forgot to mention just now is quinoa. Quinoa is a protein, and I used to eat so much. I used to live on quinoa. I used to eat it every single day, and I actually think it's really delicious. It's so versatile. You can kind of make a big salad with it instead of kind of rice or whatever. It's just it's can be the basis of a meal, and it is protein. But in terms of shakes, what would you recommend? What kind of protein powder do you use?
Well, I use one from Wild Nutrition, which is actually a pea plant. It's like a vegan pea protein powder, which has also got lots of other lovely things in it, adaptogens and all sorts of things in it as well. It's not cheap, but I do think, again, it's one of those things you pay for what you get. My boys, who are obsessed by going to the gym, I've been trying to get them to use my protein powder, but they go and get like the horrible whey proteins, which are full of sugar, because they taste nicer, and they won't be told by their mum. So frustrating. I think the most important thing is just make sure it's not full of sugar. Firstly, that's the most important thing, because so many of them have so much added stuff. Look at the ingredients on the back. What's it got in it? I'm not sure about in terms of the whey, if you use whey or if you use pea protein. I personally would prefer to use a vegan one, just because. But yeah, look at the ingredient list and make sure it's got things in it which you recognise, rather than a list of weird chemicals and a load of sugar, is what I would say.
And
I was also on quinoa. And I just say quinoa is the only complete plant protein. It's kind of like a super protein. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and also quinoa is really easy to cook. It's just it's so simple. And actually what I used to do all the times, I used to do a massive great batch. I used to cook up a whole thing of quinoa, shove it in a Tupperware and shove it in the fridge, and then you can it'll last you for like 4 or 5 days. It's so easy, and you can just sort of add it into whatever. So quinoa really is key. What's that? Yeah, how much do you put in to your smoothie? And can you just go through what you have in your smoothie? Is it you said full fat yogurt, berry?
I put in my smoothie at the moment what I put. So you could put. So it depends. It really depends what I've got in the fridge. So if I'm going for sort of a more of a sweeter one, I might put in some. So I always in my freezer always have some really nice organic wild blueberries, which are amazing antioxidants. So I'll put in some of those. I'll put in. I always have some sort of berries in the freezer, so I shove some of those in. Maybe I might put banana in if there's one there, particularly if it's going brown. I'll put in yeah, so I'll probably put in a couple of tablespoons of protein powder. I'll put in a couple of tablespoons of full fat yogurt, some water. I've kind of got some dull seaweed, dry seaweed. I'll sometimes shove in some of that because that's, meant to be quite good for you. I might, if I've got some greens like some spinach or something in the fridge, I'll put a handful of that in it. Maybe a bit of avocado. Sometimes I might have half a avocado hanging around in the fridge. So I just kind of use what I've got around, those sorts of things. And I might actually put in some sunflower seeds, some pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, shove those in there as well. Always, I've got my ground linseed or flaxseed, same thing. I always have that in the fridge. So I'll put in a couple of tablespoons of that. So I know that I just kind of like getting in. It's like a really healthy glass of goodness, of loads of good healthy fats, loads of protein, some good fruit and veg as well in there, and and it actually does, and it tastes pretty nice as well.
Yeah, no, it sounds delicious. I had a phase where I would have, or one of my favourite smoothies has it's banana, apple, because I find that when it comes to making smoothies, apple is such a good thing just to add a bit of sweetness. So I used to do banana, apple, avocado, spinach, and lime juice. And actually, you add the juice of a lime, and my gosh, that makes it so delicious.
Oh, yes, I might add some of that.
Really, really, really good. And speaking of blueberries are one thing that blueberries and avocado. I think I've said this before on a podcast. It might have even been on one of our Monday motivations, but the two things I will always have in the fridge are blueberries and avocados. Literally, because blueberries are so incredibly good for you, aren't they? As are avocados, and avocados are very good for that kind of natural fat that we need as well. So yeah, those are two of my sort of favorite things to have. And I'm with you on the flaxseed as well, that I always have that in my fridge. And in fact, I sometimes will sprinkle that if I'm doing like an omelette thing for breakfast. I'll sprinkle the flaxseed into omelets. But adding it into a smoothie is a really good idea as well, isn't it? Polly, what other words of wisdom do you have? Because I think you have so many more words of wisdom than I do on this topic, as per usual. Do you have any other words of wisdom to sort of things that you recommend or encourage people to try and get into their diet on a daily basis that are sort of up there?
I mean, it depends where you're at in your life, I suppose, because actually we're all so unique. And I think this is what I'm learning more and more, is that there's not really a blanket rule for anybody, because you've got to listen to your body. And I think ultimately, when you listen to your body and you tune in, you kind of know what your body is craving. Obviously, eat full, real food. That is, I think, the most important thing. And try and eat the rainbow. Try and eat as many different colours. So I would say to you, Lucy, to challenge yourself and maybe try and eat, maybe one new vegetable each week, and just see if you could include, or fruit, into your diet. That is what I'm trying to do at the moment. It's like, maybe I'll try and introduce a new vegetable which I've never really cooked with before, just to give a bit of variety. I think that is something which is really important. And also, I think particularly if you're a woman, to try and eat more phytoestrogens. So even if you're a woman and you are, even like my daughter who is 14, all the way through to kind of menopausal age and beyond, if we can eat more phytoestrogens in our diet, it can really help with our hormonal health, because phytoestrogens have kind of got the same chemical structure as the estrogen which we make in our body, but they have also, though, been found to help kind of balance out the more harmful estrogens in our body, as well as kind of give us the estrogen which we might not be producing. So they're kind of quite a balanced form of food. So we find these phytoestrogens in things like flax seeds, linseed. It's really good potent source in all sort of soy products. So if you think Japanese food, women in Japan don't seem to suffer with as many menopausal symptoms, if they're eating a traditional diet as women in the West. And that's thought to be perhaps because they are eating more phytoestrogen rich food. So things like edamame beans, miso, soy, all of that sort of food can be really powerful. So again, I always have edamame beans frozen in my freezer, which I tuck into things like rice or anything which I'm cooking. Just if we can try and get these regularly into our diet on a day-to-day basis, it can really, really help. So that would be another little tip.
Yeah. Groovy, baby. Well, I think we're done because it's 10:32.
Yay! All right. Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure, and hopefully there was something helpful in there. I'm not a I'm not a trained nutritionist at all. So there are so many wonderful people out there doing such good work. But I think what I just believe so firmly in is it's about trusting yourself and your body for what you want to eat. And I know sometimes you can be drawn to all of the ultra processed food. It's so damn hard these days, isn't it? Because you just have to walk down the supermarket aisles and everything is in a packet and it's just screaming at you and it's delicious. If I see a packet of chocolate eclairs, I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to eat them. So it is really hard. So it is about, you do need to be intentional, but it's about really trying to reframe it as in like, what do I get to do? What could I get to do to refill my body? And the more that we can eat in a way which is supportive and nourishing, the more your body actually wants to eat in that way. I find the moment I eat the crap, the more I want to eat of it. And then I go down a spiral and it takes a lot to get myself out of that spiral.
That is exactly what I was just going to say. I was literally just thinking I must remember to say this because it's so damn true. Two things, actually. Number one, speaking of sweet things, I always eat a couple of squares of really, really dark chocolate, like really good dark chocolate every night, because there's a lot of, a lot of research to show that sort of cacao within the dark chocolate is really, really good for us. So that's one thing that I do quote unquote allow myself. But yes, it's so true that when you get in a phase of not eating very healthily, and I absolutely do that, when I get in a phase of not eating very healthily, it feels really, really difficult to get out of it and to start getting back to really sort of clean, healthy eating. But what I always find is that as soon as I start eating healthily again and get into that zone, then you don't want to eat the shit. So it's like whatever you're eating, you want to eat more of. So if you can just bring yourself to start, it sort of inviting a few more healthy things into your diet, the more you do that, the more you're going to want to do it. That's certainly what I find. So the more healthily I eat, the more that sort of, it's like it just perpetuates. I want to eat more and more and more of it. And I don't find those other things appealing. So if I'm in the supermarket, I'm just not even noticing all of the kind of really unhealthy things because it's just not occurring to me that I would eat them. Whereas when I'm in a phase where I'm, having a bit of pralines and cream, Haagen-Dazs, thank you very much. Once I've got the taste of that, I'm like, ooh, and then I'm sort of looking for more unhealthy or I'm noticing the more unhealthy stuff. So I think that's worth pointing out that if you just can force yourself to get on the sort of more healthy path, then it's easier to carry along on it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And just very quickly, on this subject, there is, emotional eating is a thing. And I really, really know when I'm feeling a bit pissed off or I'm feeling a bit bored or I'm feeling just a bit sorry for myself in some way. That is when I crave those foods which I know are not so good for me. I absolutely crave them, and sometimes I can't. The craving becomes too much, and it's such an emotional response. It's not that I really want them; it's that emotional. So in those moments, I've really started to try and catch that. It's like, do I really want that? Or actually, is it because I'm bored? Is it because I'm hungry? Is it because I feel like I need someone to give me a big hug or whatever it is? And actually it passes if you can catch it and then find something which might be able to nourish that feeling, whatever that is. then it will pass. But that is a big part, I think, of our problem. But the issue of wanting and craving to eat some of these ultra processed foods, it's an emotional thing. It's not necessarily your fault. It's just about trying to rewire your brain to not need that, whatever it is you're looking for within the food. So yeah, that's a whole other topic, really.
maybe motivation, perhaps. Oh,
I love.
well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you back here on Monday at 9, our usual time.
All right, well, take care. Bye. Bye. Bye.